All right, everybody, we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio 1410 Wing AM. We'll get back to your calls. I'll get to your responses via the text line, 937-518-1410. That's the number to call or text to jump in on the conversation. We're still giving away tickets. Lil Wayne going to be in Columbus, Nationwide Arena on Thursday night, and all you have to do is text Carter. Text Carter, 937-518-1410, and you'll be entered into the drawing to win some tickets to see Lil Wayne again Thursday night in Columbus. We'll be making that announcement. We'll be drawing the winners coming up on Wednesday. We'll be talking college football with Phil Steele from the College Football Magazine. Again, he's going to join us. We'll talk Ohio State. We'll talk Big Ten. We'll talk about the SEC doing its typical thing, threatening to go off and start its own cool kids club if college football doesn't do exactly what it wants. So we'll get into all that coming up. But we don't have many in-studio guests often, but this guy's been, of course, very generous over the last couple of years when in town, of course, and that's none other than Mr. Former Flyer, DaRon Holmes. DaRon, welcome, man. How are you? Appreciate your time.
Pretty well, man. I'm very appreciative of you letting me come out.
Yeah, look, so it's kind of crazy. You're heading into already your third year in the NBA. I know, rookie year cut short due to that injury, kind of threw you off a little bit as you're getting your NBA career started. But technically, you're 1 full year now playing-wise in the league. I mean, now that you're preparing for year number 3, recap season 2. How do you think that went, especially having to build yourself back up and coming off that injury?
Honestly, very excited. Like you said, horrific injury, first year in the league. So this being my third year and second season playing, I have a lot of expectations, and I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, and, obviously you're in town. We're going to talk about what you're in town for coming up more here in a moment. I know you had a couple career-high games. I think towards the end of December, you had the 11 points against the Knicks, the NBA champions, ended up being the NBA champs. At what point of the season do you start getting comfortable? Was there a point where you started to feel like, okay, now I'm no longer coming off this injury. Now I'm at the point where I'm starting to adjust to the league a bit?
Yeah, I would say, with games and stuff, I still feel like I still have a little bit more to go until I'm fully comfortable. But I would say, with practicing on my own, I'm a lot comfortable now. Just because of the injury and coming back from it, all the rehab that I've done, I'm in a way better place than I was before. So going into this season, I'm very excited and I'm ready to go.
Every time we see you, it's like you're putting on more and more muscle. Just talk kind of about what's the workout routines like? Again, no longer just coming off an injury. Now you're just trying to, just build yourself for lasting NBA career.
Yeah, those are pretty difficult. Wake up pretty early, get lifting, get shooting. It's just a repeated cycle of that. Got to make sure I'm eating the right things, doing yoga, doing the right things for my hips. All these little things, all these little details matter.
DaRon Holmes with us here in studio again, the Justin Kinner Show, live here, 1410 ESPN Radio. With the Denver Nuggets right now, when you got drafted by them, obviously the roster's made some adjustments. Injuries happened, and that kind of really opened the door for you to get not just an opportunity to get playing time, but extended minutes. You're never rooting for injuries. You've experienced one already yourself, a pretty significant one. But, a little silver lining there with some of the injuries to Jokic and others. It did open the door for you to kind of get out there and have an opportunity to show what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it sucks that that's the way it happened,
yeah.
But I'm grateful for any opportunity I get, especially going forward. That's the biggest thing is being able to have an opportunity, so when I do get that, I got to take full advantage of it.
Summer League going on now. Did you decline the Summer League? Is there are you not playing in Summer League, or how'd that work out?
Yeah, well, it wasn't up to me. I wanted to play in it, but ultimately it wasn't my decision. It was some decisions in the front office with the coaches. So I just listened to what they had to say, and they had some veteran runs for some of the guys who weren't playing summer leagues. So I was able to hop in those, and I had a fun time. So.
What are some of the things you guys do? Summer League is not the only opportunity to play and run up and down. What is your off-season routine with Denver? Is it more personalized based, just the stuff that you do personally to stay in shape? The Nuggets have a plan for how does that all work out?
A little bit of everything. They give you a plan they want you to work on, but also, you go in every day, and you do the things they're asking for, so it's a lot of PD stuff, and then you lift, and then you play against each other, a lot of shooting. So it's really just iron sharpening iron, trying to get better every day.
And it's funny, too, because following your career, it is pretty wild, the amount of Flyers that have entered the NBA over the last couple of years. Obviously, with Obi being out for some of this season, and with the Pacers not being very good after making the finals last season. But Obi comes back. We're following Obi. We're following you. We're following Kobe Bryant, Tumani Kamara. And I'm sure I missed one in there. But, how unique is that? I know we talked about this last time. Again, you heading into year 2, but now you're a few years in the league, and it's not uncommon to see Flyers sprinkled throughout the NBA.
Yeah, it's very special, because it shows how hard we worked, and also just what Dayton can put out there. We're all products of the University of Dayton, and we're all excited that we are, doing what we can to prove ourselves out there. So it's pretty cool to be able to be in the league alongside those guys.
Obviously, you've been talented. For a long, long time. Anthony Grant did a phenomenal job helping develop the likes of yourself and Obi and many others. You were going to get to the league regardless with your talent and skill, but talk about what did Anthony Grant do? Talk about the Dayton Flyers program and how they helped develop you and Obi and Kamara and all these guys. Just talk about how Dayton helped position you guys to get to the league.
I would say, everybody has different things. But for me, it was really thinking the game, understanding certain situations, knowing how to read plays, and understanding my teammates' tendencies. Those are things that I would say Coach Grant and the coaching staff at Dayton, when I was here, that's what they did a very good job of. And I'm very grateful for them.
Obi was hurt. I don't think did you play against Obi this year?
No, I didn't get a chance to play against Obi this year.
But Tumani, you did. I believe you played against. Yeah.
We played against Tumani this year.
You guys talking during the game, what was that opportunity like?
It was pretty cool. We weren't always out there. We weren't out there at the same time, but I got to talk to him, and I was talking a little bit of smack when I was out there, and because we beat them majority of the times. Yeah. And that's my biggest thing to him. It's like, I don't care how big time you get. We're not going to lose to you more than, you beat us, vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But that was the whole thing. I was just talking a lot of smack to him about it. So.
Because I'm an NBA fan, so to me, I would fanboy out everywhere I go running into these NBA. You're playing with Jokic, and I know we kind of discussed this last time, but obviously it's your profession, it's your job. But are there still moments where you're out there and you're like, I can't believe, I talked to Luke Kennard recently, and, he said he grew up a LeBron fan, but he's a veteran in the league now.
Yeah.
Luke Kennard for the area, and you get to play with LeBron and played, pivotal roles in some of the wins that the Lakers had here in LeBron's final year in Los Angeles. But, are there, he talked about still, as long as he's been in the league, there's still some of those pinch me moments. Is that the case for you too? You're still probably having those, I'm sure.
Oh, endless amounts of those. Like I remember regarding Joel Embiid, and I was like, this is insane. The dude weighs like 300 pounds, but at the same time, I remember watching him on TV like literally a couple of years ago, and now I'm guarding this dude. So it's been pretty cool. That's one of the best parts about being in the NBA is you're playing against a bunch of your idols, and then these guys that are vets, like they probably don't even always notice that a lot of us have looked up to them, so it's pretty cool to be able to share that experience.
With Anthony Grant, with you guys having so many Flyers that are in the pros, right now, I know obviously with him being busy, he has his job, of course, taking care of the Flyers, but does he make it out to any games? Did you guys cross paths at all this past season? Did he make it out to any games?
Well, it's just hard because of scheduling, but he does a very good job of reaching out and communicating with the guys, and I know it's hard on him. He has a lot of alumni. He has his own team to take care of, but he does a very good job of reaching out. I saw him in Vegas. So when he has the opportunity, he always makes sure, he comes out and supports, or he'll reach out, and that's what really matters. And I'm just very grateful for him because I get how difficult that is. And he does a good job of making sure it's balanced out.
DaRon Holmes with us here in studio for just tuning in. Again, it's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. So right now, again, and we joked about this earlier, I know we're going to talk LeBron, and I'm sure by the time we're done talking LeBron, we're going to talk about where we think he's going to end up, and he's going to announce where he's going. But you talked about your idols. You talked about guys you grew up watching. Heck, LeBron's been in the league going on 24 years now. He's been around a minute. I still think it's insane that this is his third or fourth free agent run right now, and it's still the number one NBA storyline, and people are sitting around just waiting, just absolutely waiting. What's your point of view on this? How big of a we know LeBron the name, and we know LeBron the legacy and the career, but at 40 plus years old, how big of wherever he ends up, how big of a domino is that as far as how that's going to have an impact on the rest of the league? Man,
it's going to be huge because this is probably where he's going to end his career at. Yeah. There's a chance that that's the case, and we're all excited for him. The players are, we know he's trolling, with throwing out different teams out there. We know what he's doing, but it's cool for the fans to get a mix of this, and LeBron is obviously, for me, he's the GOAT, but he's just one of the best players of all time, so it's pretty cool to see this and experience it, especially while I'm in the league, That's pretty nice to see this.
Yes, but I mean, again, and he's never come out and said that this is going to be the last year, but you have a feeling it's going to be the last run, regardless, whether it's this year, next year, whatever. But, you're going to have an opportunity when it's all said and done to say, man, I got to play against LeBron in his final couple of years in the league, which is pretty significant. Now, we were talking before going on the air, there was a stretch where, because that list, we know the obvious choices. He can go back to Miami, where he's won, 2 championships, been to many finals. I've been to many finals in Cleveland, brought a championship there. Those 2 teams that, he's being rumored to return to. But for a stretch, Denver was brought up, and I kept saying, man, how wild would that be to see LeBron, and DaRon and you guys out there. But when you see that come across for the first time, whether you think it was realistic or not, I mean, have you thought about, man, what would we look like with the LeBron James?
Yeah, I definitely would. I thought about it. I was like, my minutes are getting diminished, but at the same time, I'm playing. I'll be able to play alongside, to me, the GOAT. So that's all that matters, and that's that would be amazing, But I kind of knew. I think a lot of guys knew that he was trolling about Denver. I don't think he was taking that very serious. I think, there was a little chance, but I don't think that was something he was really considering. But I'm just excited to see where he does end up, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Where's the best fit, do you think?
I think the best fit for him is probably going to be either Golden State or it's going to be Miami.
Miami. Do you think, when you say Golden State, do you think they're an NBA Finals contender if he goes there?
It just depends. They got a lot of vets, and you got Curry and Draymond. That's enough to make it a deep run, And then LeBron's leadership with Draymond's, I just think if they get the right pieces, that's a very hard team to stop. And then Miami, they just a lot of hard workers down there, and they got Giannis and LeBron and Bam all in the same. That's going to be insane. And then there's also the possibility of Philly. All these teams he goes to, he's able to fit anywhere, So that's where I think it's going to be exciting to see.
I noticed you didn't say Cleveland.
Yeah, I think, well, here's the funny part about that. Even though he fits so well with all these other teams, I think Cleveland could end up being the place he goes as well, just because he's from there. Like I said, I think it could be his last run. Why wouldn't he want to end it out in his home?
Yeah, and I said this before, too. It's okay, there's the storybook ending of going back to Cleveland. But it's not as if Cleveland's just some average to below average team. Yes, it's going back to Cleveland where he's from and all that, but he's going back to a finals contender. You have Jared Allen, you have Evan Mobley down low. Obviously, you have Donovan Mitchell. James Harden's always an interesting talking point with a lot of people, whether he fits or, the Cavs rumored to try to get Kyrie Irving to come back or whatever. But, a lot of people are starting to leave Cleveland out of the conversation. I think it's because we're bored with just saying the obvious as far as Cleveland being a good fit. But, LeBron with Evan Mobley, with, Jared Allen down low, obviously with the score and Donovan Mitchell, that, to me, it just seems like the perfect storybook ending, not just because it's Cleveland, but because it's Cleveland, who was just in the Eastern Conference Finals, who are a finals contender. That would be a beyond insane storyline when it's all said and done.
Really would. That'd be insane.
So you look at Steph Curry, LeBron Giannis, LeBron Donovan Mitchell, LeBron. Who would be the number 2? Okay, Phil. I was gonna say LeBron, Joel Embiid. Who would be the
Embiid. Yeah. Well, yeah. Either of those. Yeah, that team would be crazy.
It's a Joel Embiid if you have to stay healthy.
That's literally it with him. If he's healthy, he's one of the most dominant players ever.
Yeah, if he's healthy, that would be my pick right there.
Yeah,
when it's all said and done. I wonder if that's a wild card when it's all said and done. But all right, we're gonna step away for a few moments. I want to talk Flyers when we come back. I want to get your thoughts on the exhibition. Showcase, the Care Source Invitational that's going to be held at a tennis venue. I'm curious your thoughts on playing at a tennis venue with Ohio State, UD, Xavier, and Cincinnati. So that's going to be pretty unique, as that's how they're going to tip off exhibition play coming up in early October. I'm curious your thoughts on that. We'll talk about your brother, and how he turned his back on Flyer Nation, baby. I tell you what, we get to all of that when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. DaRon Holmes, former Flyer, current Denver Nugget, again, spending some time here in town, again, already entering or getting prepared for year 3 of his NBA career, which is just kind of wild, of course, and coming off technically the first full year in the league. I know we discussed it. I asked this a little bit ago, but again, one more time, like, at the beginning of the season, was it strange running out there, like, because you're worried about re-injuring yourself? I mean, what is it like mentally coming off of an injury like that? Because, again, you're battling the coming back from an injury, but you're also, trying to learn the league and learn the tempo, pace, physicality, all that stuff.
Yeah, all of that plays a factor. That's the hardest part about it, that if you go through a horrific injury like that, you're trying to go back out there and play right away. And, you're worried about, hey, like, dang, am I going to re-injure myself? But at the same time, it's your first year, like, going out there and playing against the best of the best. So it's like you have 2 different things you're worrying about at the same time, and they're both very, very, big deals. So it's like that was something that was pretty crazy to me.
And look, it's never a good thing to get hurt. But was there any silver lining to it? Was there any silver lining to maybe just because you're hurt, sitting back and just any silver lining? Was there anything that you're like, look, I don't want to miss my first season, but was there any positive to take away from it, as silly as that kind of sounds?
Yeah, there definitely was. You get to learn stuff, off the court, and then also, like, you just get a chance to get back and watch, so you're not, like, rushing into things all the time. Like, you get a year to, like, relax and learn a little bit more about the game and how the way the NBA works and everything. So it's pretty cool.
We were talking during the break. So when I brought up the Care Source Invitational, you kind of had this look like you didn't know what the hell I was talking about, because that's how hard you're working. You're so busy over there that, but no, so the Care Source Invitational, look, I'm a diehard college basketball fan. I grew up an Ohio State basketball fan, mainly because where I'm from, like, our teams came across, like, Aaron Kraft, played against John Diebler, William Buford. Like, we played against a lot of those guys. And then to see them, when I'm in high school, to see them go on to play for Thad Matta at Ohio State, I was a big fan of those Daquan Cook and Greg Oden teams. So I was just a huge Thad Matta fan, huge Buckeye fan growing up. So I grew up an Ohio State fan. And, growing up an Ohio State fan, you always hear all the time, like, wish Ohio State played in some kind of in-state invitational going up against the other top teams in the state of Ohio. You see it in Indiana, but you don't see it in Ohio. And if there was going to be an invitational, it would be made up of the biggest, most popular teams in Ohio. Your Dayton Flyers, of course, Ohio State, Xavier, Cincinnati. Fans have been clamoring for it. All we ever hear these teams do is so hard to schedule. It's so hard to schedule. Well, I could think of an annual invitational that would actually put 2 to 3 games on your schedule very, very easily. I'm sure they could figure it out. But, there's all the politics behind the scenes, and there's a lot of roadblocks that come up. I know the stuff behind the scenes for some reasons why certain games don't happen. We all know that. But finally, there was starting to be some rumors of an invitational coming about that was being teased, and I'm like, oh, man, they're going to do it. They're going to finally put this 4-team invitational together with Dayton, UC, Cincinnati, Dayton, Xavier, and, of course, Ohio State. And they technically did. But it's an exhibition invitational, and it's called the Care Source Invitational. Dayton has dabbled in these exhibition games the last couple of years. Ohio State went to UD Arena, Xavier. It's pretty neat, seeing the teams play rather than playing the regular season. But people have been wanting this invitational. It's finally going to happen. It's going to be held on October 7th at the Linder Family Tennis Center over in Mason. So early October, outdoors, a tennis venue. I love all of that. Dayton will take on Xavier. Ohio State will play UC in a doubleheader. So back-to-back games on October 7th. It's phenomenal. It's what fans want, kind of. They don't want an exhibition invitational. They want a regular season invitational. So I was a little negative about it. I wasn't a big fan of it. But when you hear those 4 teams involved in an invitational on a tennis court outdoors, Linder Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, to tip off the season exhibition style, what's your takeaway as a former player?
It's just great to have everybody there. I think that's the biggest thing. And, it would be great to have them play in the regular season as well. But it's pretty cool that, they're all coming together for something, especially earlier before the year starts. And, they get a chance to compete. I think that's the biggest thing. And these guys will be able to learn about, what they need to focus on heading into the season against very good opponents. So that is something that would be great. I've always wanted to play against, like, Xavier. When I was in college, I really wanted to play Xavier and Ohio State, Cincinnati, those teams. We did play Cincinnati, which is fun. Yeah. But, it will be pretty cool to see. So I'm glad they're doing it. I've never heard of the venue. So I hope I can see it somehow, like, if they're able to put it out there. Like, I hope I get a chance to watch it and check out the venue.
Well, you won't, because you won't be able to watch it. That's another dumb thing about it too. Is that you can't. And look, and by the way, by the way, your response, that's how an adult responds to a very cool invitational like that coming about. And look, I've made my comments about it. There is an underlying cause for this too, is to help bring attention to mental health and everything else. So definitely not making light of that. I would never be obviously disrespectful towards that end. But my thing is, if you're going to help bring attention to a cause, but not have it on TV and not have it accessible, it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. But overall, I understand what they're doing, and then some things I've heard from fans is, okay, well, this might blossom into something, and it very well might. But yeah, that's how an adult, DaRon Holmes, ladies and gentlemen, responds to, yes, it's great. You get these 4 teams together and you're playing at a tennis venue. That's what people wanted to hear from media, nonetheless. But yeah, because the thing with Dayton, too, that's interesting, it's when the schedule comes out, it's always about who they don't play more so than they do play. You get every year, it never fails. You want them to play your Ohio States. You want the rivalry with Xavier back. The Wright State thing. I think we talked about that a few years ago. That's one of those where I'm a big advocate for it, but I'm not. I'm done pushing it. It's not going to happen. So it is what it. But it is interesting. Dayton, all the scheduling talk, it's always more about who they don't play more so than who they do play.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It is. I definitely remember we played this guy. He went to Wright State, but we played him at Virginia Tech. He got us. Or Coach Grant cussed us out. Well, I wouldn't say cussed us out, but he chewed us out in film session after that. He's saying he was waiting to play us. So it is. I know guys are willing to play Dayton, and Dayton's ready to play whoever. So that will be interesting to see going forward in the future if they start to the team start to get that together where they schedule against each other. But like I said, it's a big deal that they are playing in this exhibition, and they're all doing it for a common cause, and that's what's special about it, so I'm excited to see and hear about that stuff.
Yeah, that player you're talking about, Grant Basile.
Grant Basile.
Because the funny thing, that earlier that year, it was during volleyball season, and maybe it's the previous season. There's a picture that floated around of him it was Wright State and UD volleyball, and it was at UD, and he's pictured there with Tanner Holden and other Wright State players. He's holding the sign saying, play, it was something calling out UD for not playing the game.
Well, yeah, I definitely know about that picture because that's the first picture with the film session. We all walked into the room, and that picture was just already loaded up on the screen, and Coach Grant was pointing at the picture for a long time, and we're like, and then he's like, man, this guy has been waiting to play us, and he finally got his opportunity, and look what he did to you guys. So it was the best. That was definitely one of the best Coach Grant moments I've had.
Yeah, and look, and Grant actually was very good. He was very good at Wright State, but when it was announced that Tanner was going to Ohio State, Grant was going to go from Wright State, go to Virginia. Was Virginia Tech? Virginia Tech. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I don't know if that makes sense for him to go. I was like, man, Tanner's going to have the better, I thought he would be better going to Ohio State. It didn't work out for Tanner. In fact, Tanner ended up coming back to Wright State, but Grant was phenomenal. Grant was phenomenal there for that 1 year. And UD Arena, known, more NCAA tournament games have been played there than any other venue in the country, and there's always the talk with the ever-changing landscape of college athletics. How will UD ever, how much longer can they hold on to the first 4 and all that? So they expand the NCAA tournament. Your thoughts on the expansion of the NCAA tournament? UD does keep the first 4, but it's no longer the first 4. It's the opening round or whatever they're calling it. Wichita State's going to be the other first 4 site, if you will. What was your thoughts when you heard that the tournament was going to expand?
I think that's pretty cool. I think it's going to bring more attention to the tournament, and it gives more teams the opportunity to get out there and showcase what they can do, and it's always great that Dayton's hosting a part of the NCAA tournament because of how extraordinary the venue is, how great the people are out here, and how much we love basketball, so it'll be pretty interesting to see. I know people have different takes on it about it. Like, should we have extended the tournament? Should we have just kept it the way it was, but I think that it's going to be pretty nice to open it up a little bit.
And I was a big advocate of don't expand it, but I feel like there's a lot of just regurgitated propaganda out there amongst sports media. Like, we just repeat things to repeat it. But I was one of those, and I'm like, but what's it hurting? But I don't want it to continue to expand and to get to an obscene amount of teams. But I mean, they added a few more teams. I keep asking people, everyone's so mad about it. How's it impacting you? How it doesn't impact you at all? Like, I don't understand how it impacts anyone with the amount of teams that they just expanded it to. Technically, the one way it could have impacted us here in Dayton is if we would have lost the first 4, which we didn't. So I keep asking people that, whether they call in a complaint saying leave the game alone. I'm like, I'm with you. I don't like tinkering with it too much. I think it's the best postseason tournament out there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, I don't know what it's done. I don't think it's impacted anything at the end of the day. More teams, more opportunities, more good games, you know. So I'm cool with it too.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I think that's what matters. You know, it's more teams, more opportunities, and then more good games. The NCAA, that tournament is so watched compared to like a lot of other things. You know, even NBA games like that. Those games are like very big. Like that's a big deal. So it's pretty cool.
DaRon Holmes with us here in studio. Let's go back to your recruitment coming out of high school. Talk about your brother in a moment. You're coming out, Dayton. And I always say small, but an A10 school, but you had a lot of other much, Power 4 schools, high major, programs looking at you. We've talked about this in the past, but like thinking back where you're at now and how you got here and going back to your recruitment, during the high school stretch, you clearly didn't make a mistake. You obviously made the right choice, but I mean, it is kind of, when you have all those bigger school opportunities, why Dayton? Why Dayton at that time? And think about how much college basketball has changed since then to what it is now. But just take us back through your recruitment. Was there another school that was close? Was there another school that, you were almost leaning towards over Dayton before you picked the Flyers?
Well, yeah, I was originally committed to Cal Berkeley. It was a verbal commitment. I was going to go there, but I was not trying to just focus on academics more than basketball, so I really love basketball. And also the academics at Dayton are great too. So I can still get great academic learning, while learning from great coaches. And the thing that brought me into Dayton was just the culture here, the family atmosphere, and then the coaching staff. They were amazing, especially with recruiting. Coach Grant was always honest. He wasn't a coach that was trying to give me all these great ideas. He wasn't gassing my head up. At the same time, he wasn't bringing me down. He was being honestly straightforward, and he had a plan. And he told me, if you come here and work hard, we will take care of you in terms of getting you better and getting you where you want to go, and he said, just trust the process. And I just trusted it. And the rest of the coaching staff was obviously great as well. And I feel like I made a great decision. Yeah.
And, back to NIL wasn't a thing when you were out, right?
Well, my first year is when it first, I think, officially started.
Yes, because that's how our friend Mr. Cam over here, Mr. Engaged Cam over here, put a ring on it. Yes, you are right. I can't believe I asked that. I already knew that answer. So but it was in the beginning stages.
Stages.
When you've seen how rapid it has, evolved into what it is now.
Yeah.
Are even you surprised the amount of money that's being thrown around?
Yes. I'm very happy I'm all in for college athletes making money. I do think there are some, I think it gets blown out of proportion sometimes with how much some of these guys are making. But
your brother's not making $36 million a half or whatever random. No,
he's taken care of. But we always, I told Cam too, and the biggest thing is just make sure the priority with basketball and academics. Make sure you're locked in on those things, and the money's gonna come. So he's excited. Like I was too going through college, but it was more just cool to have a sponsorship deal. I remember when I first worked with Lee's, when I first got to college, they took a chance on me, and that's what it was just so exciting. It's never really about I need this much amount of money and this and this. I wasn't coming in as a recruit, asking for that. Now it's different. You have kids doing that, which rightfully so they can, because that's part of how it is now. It's just different. But for me, I remember going through, it's just, I don't know if I could ever make that my priority as a kid trying to go through college. It doesn't seem right to me. But I do like the fact that guys are earning money. But I even talked to Coach Grant about it. It's different now, just because if recruits are coming in, saying, hey, this is how much we want to start with the money. It's man, you haven't even done anything yet. And you're already asking that's like me asking for a certain contract, for my next contract already. I haven't really proven enough to do that yet. So I feel like you just have to work for it, so that's just my statement on it.
Yeah. And it's you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you don't have that personality or that mindset of give me the money, you leave money on the table. And look, and it's evolved so much that it's one of those where we, as adults and just our normal lines of work outside of, basketball and others, we are capable of finding opportunities that can give us the best, the most money that also makes sense. But we act like athletes, can't. And maybe not, maybe because of the age of athletes coming out of high school, and maybe you have, wrong people in your ear, whatever. Maybe they're not making the best decisions, and that's just going to be the risk of all of this at the end of the day. But I will say, I try to look at the positives of it. I feel like we've been able to get maybe an extra season or two of certain players, and you can answer this however you want, but without NIL, I don't know if we get that extra year of you at Dayton. You get that NCAA tournament, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that's a good thing. I think that my problem with college basketball over the years is we never got to see programs grow and evolve because you get your one and dones, which is fine. They have that's their prerogative, but you never got to see. Imagine, and I brought up my Ohio State fandom earlier. When I was a kid, I was a big Greg Oden fan. Imagine 2 years of Greg Oden at Ohio State. Yeah. Imagine 2 years of some of these 2 years of Kevin Durant at Texas. Imagine if LeBron had to go to college for 1 or 2 years, right? It's stupid. So, the fact. So with that, I think of your time at Dayton in the old landscape. I don't think you could say yes or no, but I don't think we get that extra year of you, and I don't think that NCAA tournament appearance in victory happens because I don't think you're there that extra year, which isn't a bad thing, but that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, it's a mixture of things. You never know because it's just hard because I never went that certain situation wasn't the case, but I loved it here. I feel like I would have came back regardless, because there were offers, at other schools, obviously, and this and that, but it wasn't really about just the money to me. It was just more about the fact that they did take a chance on me, as when I was in high school, and they brought me to where I was, and it's why leave for something when they were right here the whole time, and money's gonna come in the future. So that's the way I looked at it. But you are right. There are a lot of guys now, especially coming back to college, and because of it. The one thing that can be cautioning though is some of the bigger schools, with all this money, SEC schools, they have all this. It's hard to compete with, especially football. Football has it worse, just because I feel bad for some of the mid majors in football because you have schools like Texas, and they're going to get the guys. They're throwing millions and hundreds of thousands. It's hard to compete with that. It's very difficult. So, but yeah, for me personally, I would have came back, but I know that it could be different for other people. It's pretty crazy to think about that though.
Going back to that year when you did announce you were coming back, because I think there was you were going to go pro or pro B, which would have been Duke, right? That was the big rumor. Now that we're years removed, and you don't have to answer this, I'm sure there was tampering. I'm sure there was big schools like that reaching out to you. I'm assuming that was the case.
Yeah, there were schools reaching out. I won't say too much about it, but there definitely was. I don't know if it was tampering, but definitely just got recruited by other schools. They were, it was just reaching out and stuff. That was really it.
It was unintentionally almost putting you into position to accuse the school of tampering.
Yeah,
I was not trying to say you have to fail. Say it. Say Shire was tampering. Just lean into the mic and say it with
I
the
wouldn't
chest.
say it was him. Just from what I heard, I heard that there was interest. But, it's those are all very, obviously great programs as well and stuff. But I'm just glad everything worked out the way it did for me.
Obviously, times when your brother now was being recruited by Dayton. Arizona, there's all these big schools after him. Dayton was one of the finalists. And I don't know how often you check social media, but I got a kick out of every time I get on X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it nowadays. How many of you, hey, DaRon, tell your brother.
Yeah.
Come on, DaRon. Come on. When Lee's was getting tagged, everyone was like, how do we get his brother here? But, that's a delicate situation because it's one of those, if he doesn't include, I don't know. It's like, was there pressure because you played at Dayton? Did he feel the pressure to include them and really considering Dayton? It's like he saw what they did for your career, but ultimately he had to make the choice that was best for him. Not that Dayton would not have been a good choice, but just kind of walk us through that. What advice were you giving him? Was he even asking your advice? Did he even want your advice with that? Just kind of walk us through that during that time.
Yeah, he did. He asked me a couple of times, and I tried my best to let him make his own decision. I was advocate of him going to Dayton. I would have loved that. I talked to him about it. I gave him the whole rundown and everything and the pros. I thought it would have been perfect for him, but he made his own decision. I'm happy for him regardless, because that's my brother. And, I did a good job, I think, of not getting too involved in that, but my biggest thing to him was like, you would love it. Like I told him the fans love you, like it's a great program. You're going to get better. You're going to learn from the neck up. You're already going to be a freak athlete. So, he loves Dayton, by the way, too. So, he was really like, I think it wasn't even just about me.
Yeah.
Like, I think he really was, there was a very high chance he was going to come.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, there was another, remember when Kostas was here? Mm-hmm. The town went nuts because Giannis was here looking out at UD Arena and stuff. So that was like such a big deal. Obviously, there was no, he was the younger brother. Giannis was already in the league, but that was just so much. Everyone just kept talking about all the famous brothers and all the opportunities there, just from siblings of the players and your brother. Obviously, years later, and all that. But as we wrap it up, again, I appreciate you guys, coming in. I know you had an event with Lee's earlier today, and you stopping in and making some time for today. I appreciate. I appreciate. But we were talking about LeBron earlier. One thing I am kind of curious your take on this, because the NBA, it's strange. I think of Tom Brady. Tom Brady leaves the Patriots, and he's looking for another opportunity to go win a ring, right? And he's he goes to Tampa. They have a good defense. They have a good offensive line, good run game. He brings his buddy with him, Gronk, and, they get Antonio Brown, and they go and they win a Super Bowl. But nobody said, oh, he was chasing rings. They didn't say, oh, Tom Brady, that ring is watered down because you were just, you didn't earn that. You just went and chased it, right? We don't do that. Shohei Ohtani with, Major League Baseball. The Dodgers. I mean, he could have picked any team in baseball. He goes to the powerhouse Dodgers. And he's won back-to-back World Series. It's worked out well for him. His legacy is set. No one says, oh, man, Shohei was chasing this. But like LeBron, I see all this noise out there. If he hits free agency, which he has, what do you want him to pick, the Wizards?
Yeah, regardless of where LeBron goes, he's going to get hated on. And that's just the beauty of it because it is LeBron. That's just how it's going to be, unfortunately, for him. Like, we even see, like, me and my mom always send each other there's these memes that, like, anything LeBron posts, like, they'll put lay in front of it, and then they'll, like, say, like, la loser or lay cheater, like, anything, like, anything. It could be any. So that's just how it is, unfortunately, for LeBron. He's not going to be able to breathe. People are just, like, that, like, uptight with LeBron. So I think it's just a LeBron thing. Whatever he ends up doing is going to be a big deal. And people are going to say, man, like, he's cheating, or he's going to a contender. If he goes to the Wizards or something like that and he wins, people say it's rigged. Like, it's just so many different things that could happen with LeBron. It's funny to me.
I always say, what up, KB? I always say too, it's interesting because it's one of those where I think it's a bigger problem. If you're a fan of an athlete, I'm a fan of you, and you're not. So you hit free agency at some point. You're going to go find the best opportunity, yes, money wise, but a chance to win. Like I said, I'm DaRon. He's just out there chasing a ring, right?
Right.
He just, he's trying to go for an easy ring. No, that's what makes sense. I've never understood that notion. People say, well, MJ didn't have to do that. I'm like, right, or MJ didn't do it. I'm like, well, he didn't have to.
Yeah, right.
His team gave him the players that he needed. They needed Phil Jackson. He got a Phil Jackson. LeBron needed help, and they went out and got 85-year-old Shaquille O'Neal. They got Ben Wallace. They got Eric Snow. Yeah. You mean Eric Snow wasn't gonna? I mean, come on. So but I am fascinated by the LeBron storyline. I can't believe he still hasn't picked a team. Last thing on the way up, but like we talked a little bit about it earlier. But where do you want him to go, and where do you think he ends up in?
I think he ends up in I think he ends up in either Golden State or Miami. Yep. I think there's a slight chance for Philly. I think that he's going to go to Cleveland because I think he's going to end his career there, and that's his home. LeBron can buy houses wherever he wants. I don't think it's about the location for him. I just think that he's going to end up in Cleveland. I just think that's where he should go. But, there's a chance it's the Warriors of Miami. I think that's just what goes Stephen Curry. That would be everybody's dream to see those two play together. And Miami, go back there, try to get another ring.
All right, man. Oh no! See, that's our sign right there to keep. Look, it did start to fall, didn't it? The camera. Yeah. Well, that is a sign that we are done. But DaRon Holmes, awesome enough to give us some time here in studio. Looking forward to seeing another season. You, especially healthy now and all that fun stuff. You got to see the gradual progression of you last season. Really looking forward to it. Glad you're in town. Always cool catching up with you, and appreciate you stopping in.
I appreciate you guys, man. It's always a pleasure.
All right, good stuff. It's the Justin Kinner Show live here at Dayton's ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.